Welcome back to the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Today, we're shifting gears to explore the incredible journeys of three icons who turned their setbacks into remarkable achievements. From Colonel Sanders' perseverance in the face of rejection, to J.K. Rowling's rise from hardship to literary sensation, and Grant Cardone's relentless pursuit of success in real estate, all three of these stories are powerful reminders of resilience. So, whether you're facing your own set of challenges or simply just looking for inspiration, today's episode will equip you with insights that can help you overcome obstacles and ignite your drive for success. So, whether you're a first-time listener or a loyal supporter, get ready to be inspired and motivated. Let's dive right in and uncover these remarkable three stories. Ben, how are you doing, my man?
I am doing great, and welcome back to the Pursuit of Progress podcast to all of our listeners. And you know what? Today, I'd love to talk about the persistence and the power of never giving up on your dreams. And this right here, I don't know that I've ever shared this, but this is something that my son gave me literally when he was a baby. He was 1 year old. He's 15 years old. He's in high school now, and it says, "Think big." And this is my daily inspiration to think big and never give up my dreams. But here's the truth. For every door that slams in your face, you're actually one step closer to success. Think about it. Every setback is just a test of how badly you want it and a push to keep going and use it as a chance to sharpen your skills. Have you heard that Wayne Gretzky quote before?
Yeah, I think so. What is it?
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So if you're not putting yourself out there, pushing past the nose and taking every shot you can, you're missing out on opportunities that could change everything. Keep going, keep aiming, and remember, each failure isn't a dead end. It's a signal that you're moving closer to the goal.
Wow, that was a mouthful for both of us. You guys, hopefully that got you pumped up. It got me pumped up. You know, Ben and I are both, in our early 40s. And for me, myself personally, I'll first share that, I'm on a little bit of a new chapter when it comes to career paths. And, a few years ago, I got into real estate full time. And it's always been a passion, something I've been kind of doing on the side, but, got full into that just a couple years ago. And as, 40-year-old, just thinking about, I'm getting into the game late, this is way past, where all these other people are. I got kind of just frustrated a little bit, discouraged at times, thinking about that aspect of my age versus where I'm at. And I just think that today's episode is a really great reminder for anybody listening that might be on the second or third chapter of their life, their career, that it truly is never too late to pursue your dreams, to get started on something you're passionate about, and just to pursue progress. So Ben, before I jump into the first of these three icons, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, what I would add is age really is just a number. And I think all of us, we compare ourselves to our peers and our social circle where we're at, maybe compared to where our parents were at the same age. And it's just not fair to yourself to do that. There's that other quote. I think it says something like, "Comparison is the thief of joy." What's
Yep.
more important, and James Clear talks about this in his book, Atomic Habits, what's more important is not where you're at today, it's what trajectory you're on and what path that you're on and how quickly you're moving. That's by far more important than where you're at today. So you may not be where you're at today, but if you've developed the habits, if you have a growth mindset, if you're willing to learn and you're coachable and you're moving forward with the right mindset, the right work ethic, you're trending in the right trajectory. And that is by far more important than where you're at right now.
All three of these people we're going to be talking about are entrepreneurs. I think there's an underlying skill set as entrepreneurs that you only get through past experience. And even if it's completely unrelated to what you're pursuing today, there's still 1,000, if not more, skills that you're developing on your first hustle, your first business, whatever it is that you've done in the first chapter or second chapter of your career that can be applied to what you're doing today. And even if it's unrelated, I guarantee it's allowing you to have a much faster pace with how quickly you're going to be able to scale these future businesses, these future pursuits of progress in your life. So
Mhm.
I've just really been able to kind of realize that on my personal side of with my business recently, and just it gives you some just kind of, I guess, contentment with, even if something you worked on prior to what you're doing now didn't work out as well as you had hoped, there's still a ton of value you're giving yourself from that experience. And as long as you kind of keep that mindset, I think that really helps a lot
Mhm.
with just
Mhm.
your success.
All right. So who is our first icon that we're going to be learning about?
So the first one is his name is Harlan Sanders, also known
Also known
as
as
the Colonel Sanders.
the
That was
Colonel.
maybe the worst Colonel Sanders impression ever done, but I had to give it a shot. You know what I mean?
I think that's
Okay.
a Warner Brothers cartoon character that you're
That
doing.
is, yeah. I think I got the wrong chicken. Anyways, guys, Colonel Sanders, everybody knows KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And this guy, I think, is especially inspiring because he didn't achieve success until very, very late in life. And I feel bad, guys. I'm trying to find here what age he was when he really started taking off. I think he was about almost 75 years old when it really took off. So I'm just going to give you guys a few just quick stats of the Colonel, just to kind of put things into perspective. So he was born all the way back in 1890, Henryville, Indiana. Had a really troubled childhood. His father died when he was 6. Mother was having to support the family, working long hours, and basically just leaving him to have to take care of his younger siblings. So he was working these various jobs. He was a farmer, an insurance salesman. He was actually even a railroad worker. And his first kind of entrepreneurial venture was he opened up a service station in Corbin, Kentucky in 1930. So that was when he was 40 years old. So a few minutes ago, we were talking about, as Ben and I are, in our early 40s, he was at this kind of third or fourth chapter of his life when he did his first entrepreneurial, opened up his first business. At this service station, he was cooking, serving meals to people that are just passing by, travelers. And this is actually where he developed his famous fried chicken recipe using a very, very specific blend of 11 herbs and spices. 1952, so at this point, he was 62 years old. So this is, again, very close to when he finally got really successful. He began franchising the KFC brand. And this was based off of that successful roadside restaurant that he had first opened. And when he started franchising, this definitely led to some pretty rapid expansion. The first KFC franchise opened up in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1952.
Mm.
But before he got this first franchise in Salt Lake City, he is very famously known for quoting that he had actually knocked on over 1,000 other businesses. He had, reached out to 1,000 other, not just, not knocking door to door, but finding 1,000 prospects that were already considering a franchise or this, opening up a business of some sort. And he got failure 1,000 times in a row.
Wow.
Not 5, not 10, not 100. We talked in our episode last week about just failure and seeing that as an opportunity to grow, and that success is around the corner. I'd like to think that, I'd be able to do that a few times, but man, 1,000, that is just like unbelievable that he could take that much
Yeah.
rejection, that much failure, and still persevere.
We're not talking about 100 times or 500 times. We're talking about 1,000.
And on top of all that, he actually lost the original KFC restaurant in the 60s. So only about 8 or 10 years after that first franchise opened. This is the original restaurant opened. There was a massive fire, and that just caused even more setbacks for the next couple of years following that. So that was in 1960. 1964, just 4 years later, there were over 600 KFC outlets in the United States and Canada. So we're talking massive growth. Finally hit. He finally persevered to the point where he found success. Back in 1964, he sold KFC for $2 million and retained the rights to franchise the company even further, which has absolutely skyrocketed its popularity worldwide at this point. So
Yeah.
today, KFC actually has over 25,000 locations, and they're in more than 145 countries making it one of the largest fast food chains globally.
I mean, think about that. Started by someone who was over the age of 60. And now in my travels overseas, the couple of times that I've been to Europe and China, I mean, there are KFCs everywhere.
I was literally
And
just going to say the same thing.
I read something. I think Europeans or just the rest of the world, like that's their favorite American fast food restaurant is KFC. And so just to think that one man had a dream, had a recipe, started this despite his age. That's not what he didn't focus on his age. He focused on the value and what he was passionate about and what he loved. Starting that, and even before he died, he still had several 600 locations opened, and possibly thousands. And so it's just an incredible story of perseverance, not giving up, and then not discounting yourself because of your age.
And just the true real life example of, I don't care where you're at in life, what position you're in, as long as you don't give up, and this obviously is easier said than done at times, but as long as you don't give up, you're going to eventually succeed. It might hit on that first venture. It might hit on that third. It might happen on that fifth. It might happen on that 100th. It might take 1,000. But I think also what's not talked about is for every failure, you fine tune the value that you are providing in that next offering. And I think eventually, because of those failures, you're going to have a very, very just successful quality product or service that you're pitching or that you're providing.
It's so easy for us or anyone to get discouraged after a week or after a month. Maybe you're starting a YouTube channel and you've uploaded 15 videos and none of them have gained any traction, and you feel so discouraged and you feel like you're a failure. Maybe you started a podcast and you've gotten to 100 episodes and you still don't have any traction. As long as you don't give up and you keep going and you're willing to learn and build, just like this story, 1,000 failures, age 62 years old. His first restaurant gets burned down. He didn't stop though. He just kept going. And as long as you just keep going, a lot of times you're going to come out so far ahead of what you had ever even dreamed or hoped for.
I'll try and find the exact quote and share it on maybe our podcast next week. But I saw this really cool, like an infographic about Elon Musk yesterday, and it just talked about like his like number one piece of advice that he would give to like his younger self, just somebody that was just wanting to grow and succeed like he obviously has. It was just totally changing your mindset and reframing the idea of failure and not having it be this stigmatized thing in society of, oh my God, he failed. What is he going to do? Oh my, he failed, like totally changing your entire mindset around that. And that's what Elon did. That's what all the best of the best, most successful business people, athletes, anybody that's truly achieved greatness, they all have that in common.
And that's what I have learned as well, just from reading biographies. Some of the biographies that I've read in the last 12 months, Sam Walton is another one. He's not on the list today, but he didn't start Walmart until he was 44 years old. Think about that. John
Crazy.
D. Rockefeller. I'm reading J.P. Morgan Chase's biography right now. One thing that they have all had in common, regardless, Andrew Carnegie is another one. One thing that they all had in common, all of the all of these subjects from these biographies that I've read, whether it was from the 1800s, 1900s, 2000s, is their ability to persevere and their ability to overcome adversity. That is the number one thing, and they have all had that. And Jeff Bezos, for example, is another one. The reason their mountaintops and their stories are so great, Amazon didn't turn a profit for 12 years. Imagine that. I mean, you're not even profitable for 12 years. But the greater the valley, the higher the peaks. And so all of these entrepreneurs and these people that we're talking about, they've had incredible adversity, but they never gave up and they learned how to overcome it. And as a result, their story is just so powerful, and so is their success.
Yep. So let's jump into number 2, just as inspiring as number 1. This one, maybe you guys aren't a big fast food connoisseur. Maybe you guys don't even like fried chicken. You might, though, be a book reader like Ben is. You might like fiction books. You might even like the famous, very popular movie series, Harry Potter. This is about J.K. Rowling. Rowling? Rowling.
Rowling.
Rowling. J.K. Rowling. So J.K. Rowling, very, we're seeing some themes with all these different successful people. She was born in 1965, Gloucestershire, England. She grew up in a very modest family. Her mother was actually a science technician, and her father was an aircraft engineer. They moved to London to pursue a career she moved to London to pursue a career in writing, but she faced all kinds of significant challenges, including the death of her mother. So she had a very serious personal challenge right off the bat when she moved there. When this happened, she actually was living on welfare, and she was also a single mother. And after her marriage had ended and she was a single mom, she was just struggling to make ends meet and really was just having a difficult time in life while she was raising her daughter, Jessica. So fast forward a little bit further on, in 1990, she wrote the very first Harry Potter book, and she actually wrote it on public transport, on a train, just going to and from work from Manchester to London. And that was in 1990.
Well, how
When
long
that
was the train? Because that book's like, isn't that book like 1,000 pages?
that's a good point. Hour a day each direction. She cranked out, man.
Yeah, wow.
So that was in 1990 when she had this first book. But she was facing all kinds of setbacks and challenges. She faced multiple rejections from publishers. In fact, finally, Bloomsbury Publishing accepted Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 1996. She wrote the book in 1990, spent 6 years just pitching it to publishing houses
Wow.
until she finally got one accepted. However, when they accepted this Harry Potter book and they agreed to publish it, they told her, we're gonna publish this, but do not quit your day job. Figure out a way to support yourself because we're not sure this book is going to be very successful. So she was finally getting a little bit of success just with getting a publisher, but even the publishers that decided to work with her were fairly pessimistic and not that excited about, not thinking it was going to be a big hit. Fast forward, the Harry Potter series has now sold over 500 million copies worldwide. It's one of the best-selling book series of all time in history. The books have been translated now into over 80 languages, and they've even been adapted into a successful film franchise that has grossed over $7.7 billion globally. Rowling became the very first author ever to become a billionaire, and today she's worth approximately $1.2 billion. Another story from very, very minimal, upbringing, did not have too much going for her to being the most successful author of all time.
Just think about this. You write your first book in the series, and all of those Harry Potter books, they're very, very thick. I don't know what the exact page count is, but it's got to be between 500 to 1,000 pages. But just imagine that you finish the book, and what an accomplishment that is. Just finishing the book. And as an author, that's always a big deal. Just getting the book finished. Going through writer's block, finding the time to write it, having the discipline to sit down every day and actually commit to the work. You do that, and then it takes 6 years to get it published. And so you're thinking that, you finished the book, and I'm going to go pitch this thing, and maybe it's going to take a couple months to have a publisher pick. It took 6 years. And to not give up there and have the willpower to not only write the book, but then just to keep going. I wonder how many times she was rejected from all those different publishers over that 6-year span. I mean, that's incredible.
And there can't be that many publishers. Like, I bet she probably had to, pitch the same publishers multiple times. I can't imagine that it would take 6 years to, I don't know. Regardless, it's just crazy. That is a massive amount of success. And I think about other authors that are some of my favorites, fiction authors. Michael Crichton would probably be the biggest one that comes to my mind. Tom Clancy, these other authors, John Grisham, the fact that she, surpassed all of those guys too. I mean,
Yeah.
just unbelievable.
Now, I've never read the Harry Potter books before. I have seen several of the movies. I'm more of a Lord of the Rings fan. I've read those books. There are some similarities there, but right now I'm actually going through a Lord of the Rings binge, watching all of the movies and then the new Amazon Prime series that's out. It's just kind of a personal thing that I'll do like once every couple of years. Anyways, though, watching this stuff and reading about it, I'm always, as I'm reading through literature like this or watching movies, sometimes I'll just have to pause and just take a moment to acknowledge the author's creativity. I mean, it's just like this entire other world has been created in their mind, and now they're putting it on paper and like telling these stories. It's just remarkable, the creativity.
Yeah, I always think about that with James Cameron, and he's more of a sci-fi type, ideas, but J.K. Rowling for sure. I mean, all the different personalities and characters, all that stuff. So, but again, just going back to just, number 2 out of our 3 people that has just really, ingrained in our topic today of just how persistence is important. And no matter how old you are, success is waiting for you if you just put in enough effort and passion in achieving it. So guys, before we jump into the third of our icons in today's episode, just want to take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors. So this one is, I think, one of the coolest businesses I've heard about in quite some time. If you guys are real estate people, VRBO, vacation rental, Airbnb type peeps, do not change the channel. Do not hit pause. Do not fast forward. Listen to this one. Transform your home into a profitable vacation rental with Roadrunner Property Care. Our expert team takes the stress out of hosting so you can focus on what truly matters. Ready to earn more? Well, visit us at roadrunnertucson.com today. Once again, that's Roadrunner Tucson.
That's right. So great. So great.
That's right.
Now, who is our third and final icon of the day?
All right. I feel like I've been hogging the mic on this episode. So Ben, I want to get you to give a little bit more on this one, since I know he's somebody that you and I both really look up to. The third and final icon is Uncle G, Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone's a real estate guy, so we'll talk more about that here in a second. But Grant Cardone, he was born in March of 1958, same year as my mom, in Lake Charles, Louisiana. He grew up in a middle-class family. His father passed away when he was 10, and he left his mother to raise all 4 children. So Grant and his 3 siblings all to themselves. So he struggled. One thing I think is very fascinating about Grant Cardone, he had a little bit more tumultuous type of an upbringing. He struggled with drug addiction in his 20s, went to several different rehabs. He worked in sales, was always struggling financially, living paycheck to paycheck. But finally, one of these rehab stints he went into just clicked, and he just finally became determined to succeed in sales and invested in his education, his self-growth. He read sales books, attended seminars, and eventually, after a few years of really kind of finding his passion, he created what we call the X rule philosophy. And, Ben, I know, is very familiar with several of Grant's books. X is one that I just, almost coined to being a Grant, phrase. And 10X rule is basically just emphasizing that you need to take massive action to focus on achieving goals that are 10 times greater than maybe what you initially envisioned. Ben has talked about before, this is actually a different author, about 10X is better than 2X. That guy, what was that guy's name again?
Benjamin Hardy.
Yeah, Benjamin Hardy, I'm sure, kind of crafted that from Grant in some way. I know he's a little bit old, maybe about the same time, maybe a little bit older. So I'm not sure who actually first came up with that. But that aside, the 10X rule is just something that Grant is very, just known for. Mm-hmm. So fast forwarding a couple more years, he founded Cardone Capital, which is now acquired over, and so the notes that I took, this was, I think, from about maybe a year ago, it's probably 2023 data. The notes that I had shows he has acquired $1.5 billion in multifamily properties. I'm pretty sure he's over 4 billion now. So
Right.
I think just in the last year, he's almost doubled, or maybe a little bit more than doubled the size of the portfolio.
Mhm.
This real estate empire that he's built up, it generates over $40 million in annual revenue. As I said, he's the author of several best-selling books, including The 10X Rule and another one of my favorites, Sell or Be Sold. He's a very well-known motivational speaker, incredibly strong social media presence, millions of followers, and he even has a 10X growth conference that I've attended a couple times, which was just crazy to see. Literally a baseball stadium completely packed, completely full, sold out, just for people to go and sit down for 3 days to listen to him and other motivational speakers just talk about self-growth and improvement. He hosts the Grant Cardone Show. He runs Cardone University, which is an online training platform for sales professionals. He owns a private jet. He has a helicopter. He just was one of the speakers at Trump's latest campaign event at Madison Square Garden. Just an icon in many fields, but somebody else that I just get a little bit of motivation from, just from his level of persistence and coming from a pretty tough past.
Yeah, I agree. Just the adversity that he faced as a child and growing up, it's so difficult to overcome those things. And he's also someone who didn't have success early on. He faced all of the problems, addiction, the rehab, uh, failed businesses in his 20s. And I know at one point he had gotten himself to millionaire status and then ended up losing it all. And then, I think that was like 2007 or 2008, had to reset in his late 40s and start rebuilding again. So just another reminder that it doesn't matter what your age in. What's more important is the season that you're in and where are you, where are you trending? What does your trajectory look like? That's why skill development is so important. For me, I really believe that we're all either growing or dying. We're moving forward. We're getting stronger. We're developing new skills, or we're not. And if we're not doing that, it means that we're withering away. And so I always want to be someone. My message to my friends, my business partners, my family: let's do life together. Let's grow together. Let's develop our skills together. And all three of these examples have just been great examples of success a little bit later in life. What I love about Grant is that even though he has some things that he likes to flash around now, as far as cars and jewelry, which I'm not into that stuff, by the way. He didn't start, he didn't get into that until much later in his life. So his financial principles for himself and others is very fundamentally sound, from a personal finance perspective, about reinvesting into yourself, reinvesting your proceeds back into the business, not spending more than you make, investing in
Leveraging
real,
debt.
investing in real assets. Yeah, learning how to leverage debt. So he's not about, hey, look at me. He's about developing the skills and the behaviors that will then allow for those things to come into his life. Where I think a lot of other influencers try to focus on those things too early, and then it ends up really holding them back.
Yeah, just what I love about him is he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. So like this whole 10X concept, he's somebody that really changed my perspective on like social media marketing. And, instead of making one post a day, why not just blow it up and post 10 times a day? There's obviously, it can go through both sides of that, as long as it's valuable and relevant type stuff you're providing, not just doing 10 posts to do 10 posts. But he just is somebody that has really pushed myself and others to just do more. Like if you think, you need to do, one of something a day, do two, or if you feel like
Yeah.
you're at this level that you think is the peak, keep pushing. And that's, I think, where you separate yourself from these other people. And somebody like him has really just surpassed everybody else in his space and really just became the authority figure.
Mm. Yeah, so inspiring, and not just him, but all three of the icons that we focused on today. So thank you so much for putting that together. And let me ask the audience, what's one thing that you're doing today to improve yourself? How are you growing? What skills are you developing? Share with us on Instagram or Facebook or in the comments of today's YouTube podcast. And we might feature you or your comments or your questions on our next episode.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us on this, I think, inspiring journey throughout these stories of Colonel Sanders, J.K. Rowling, and Grant Cardone on today's Pursuit of Progress podcast. We hope these remarkable transformations from struggles to success have motivated you guys to persevere through your own challenges. And just remember, setbacks can be these stepping stones to greatness, so embrace them as part of your journey. Look forward to seeing you guys next week.
All right. Thanks, everyone. For Benjamin Adams and Adam Lang, this is the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Until next time.